Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at Transformers Generation 1 Skywarp and Ramjet, and yes, they don't have their landing gear, and these are the really only two Seekers that I own, and yet they're barely together. Ramjet doesn't have his landing gear, doesn't have his fins, doesn't have his guns. Skywarp doesn't, he does have his landing gear, but I don't want to lose it out here when I transform him. I don't have, really, Ramjet don't have his guns, his landing gear, his back fins, and his fists. Skywarp, I don't have his other gun, I have one of them, and his fists. So, most of these guys are complete. Just wanted to say that. And these are really the only two Seekers that I own, Skywarp and Ramjet. I do have a Dirge, but I really only have the main body, so don't really want to review him at this point anyways. So, obviously they're Seekers. These two are Seekers, so they're identical. Ramjet is obviously maroon and white, while Skywarp is black, mainly black, but has his purple in some places. And these guys do have some die cast in them, along with their just naturally heavy plastic due to them being older figures. So that's, and they look, and for their time, they do have very nice jet modes. Now the bottom, can't say as much, but overall they look really good as just jets. So we'll put one of them off to the side and we'll transform them. Gonna put Ramjet off to the side. We're gonna start with Skywarp. And these guys have not aged well by any means. By the time they 10 years out of the gate when these guys were released, they're out of date because they aren't very good, just saying. So the first thing you have to do is, I like to flip down the feet just so I can be able to stand them up. Take the wings off, and there's nothing bad with this guy being a parts former and being an outdated figure, but still, there are quite a few G1s that I have, and still I don't have, that still hold up fairly good today for being 30, 35, 37 years old. But this mold isn't the best. But take the wings off, and I just leave the gun on. And you just unhinge that a little bit, and now you can push the arms out of the middle. And now you have to bring all this down and almost you can swivel all of this, because there's this little nub right there, and that gets in the way of bringing it around like this. So you have to mainly just do it however you can get it to work, to get the head through this middle, to get the head through the middle. And then you just bring the head up. Obviously, if you want him to have the cone head style, head, but I like to bring it down to make him look like Skywarp. And obviously he doesn't have his fists, and but what I like to do, since I like to have the wings up and not down and just angled like this, I like to use these pegs where the guns are supposed to go, I think. Since I don't have any hands, I plug the wings in there, and then I leave the gun in there, so it looks like it's still part of his arm, but yet this still fills out his shape, I guess you could say, as having the wings on the back opposed to down there on his legs. But really, that's it. Very simple, and his whole torso is all die cast, and that's it. That's how simple he is. Other than putting the hands on and taking the landing gear off, that really isn't too much. But really, it's this. And yeah, like I said, hasn't aged the best. Even isn't even the greatest figure of the time. Still, gotta say, it to make this guy turn into a jet, I still gotta give him props. To make it like this, and I don't know the price point that they had to go after, but just saying, they probably did a good job. But not the greatest. So let's bring in Ramjet. And Ramjet, basically the exact same thing. But since the wings are on his legs, I like to leave him there. So you flip the feet down. Pull that down. Push his arms through, up, and down, through, slide it, spin it, and down. And now you can do the same thing just to get all this through. There's no specific way to do it as long as it just goes through. And obviously if you want the rest of the Seeker style, but since he's a cone head, I like to leave his head like that. And then his wings stay like that. And since these are on, like, can pivot, you can angle them however you want to. But I just kind of like him just straight. So I know this was really quick because these guys are just pretty simple. Like I said, not too much to them. And fairly outdated, not the greatest transformation, but, still a big, since these guys were fairly reoccurring characters, and their mold, and this mold basically paved the way for Hasbro and Takara to just make tons of money on these characters that are basically cookie cutters. That's all the Seeker is just a cookie cutter mold to sell. Which is fine, but that's it. That's it for the Seekers. These two Seekers, and like I said, these are the only two I have. But they're really, obviously, if you want to fill out your G1 collection, buy them. I don't know what these two typically run for, where to buy them, but really, but if you want to have them, really buy them to mess around with or just to have them, I wouldn't recommend them because they're not the greatest to mold, and they were almost outdated the day that they were put into the Transformers. But if you want to have a start a G1 collection or need these guys in a G1 collection, go ahead and buy them. Because they're two fairly reoccurring characters, and they're definitely fan favorites. I don't know how many people like these two, but either way, if you're a collector, buy them. If you're just collecting Transformers and aren't focused on G1 or have the biggest interest in G1, don't buy these ones. Don't buy these guys. Obviously, if you buy them on a lot on eBay, it's fine. Like, I bought him and then I just had the wings, throw them on. But, that's really it, is that if you're not focused on G1, I wouldn't suggest buying these even if they're on maybe for a good price, but typically they're not on the best of price to where you would legislate for just buying them for a hobbyist G1 collector. But that's really it. Not much to them, but that's basically it for Skywarp and Ramjet, and basically for all the other G1 Seekers. So that's it. I'll see you next time.